Welcome to Car Free Conversations. I'm Domenico,
And I'm Sumitra.
and this is a podcast where we talk about how to make the most of St. Pete without the use of a car. And today, our special guests are Derek Stewart and Dr. Shelley Stewart. And we're going to be talking about an app called TrypScore. But before we get into that, we have a little lightning round to talk about some driver's ed questions, and we'll get into why we use that topic later on. Sumitra, why don't you get us started?
Sure. Thanks, Domenico. So the first question is, the law requires motorists who are passing the slower moving cyclist to give the cyclist a cushion of safety of at least how many feet between the vehicle and the bicycle?
I'm telling Shelley the answer right now.
3. She's all like 3 feet. Yes, that is correct. In the 5 years from 2006 through 2010, how many tickets were issued in the entire state of Florida for violating the 3-foot law?
This is a 5-year total.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess low. Can I say? I'll say less than 150.
I was gonna say less than 100.
Oh, if I were to guess, I would have guessed. If I would have guessed, I would have guessed in like the thousands. It is actually low in my opinion, but not that low. It's only 337 tickets.
337 still. Yeah.
And I think I added at least 5 exclamation marks after that number because I was shocked at how low this number was.
How many of those were Domenico's? Think about yourself in 2006, buddy. Come on. It was a little bit different.
Next question. True or false? Every intersection is considered a crosswalk, whether it is marked or unmarked.
Correct.
Yep, that is true. Yeah.
And your definition of intersection might not even be complete. An intersection is any place where vehicles paths cross.
Yeah.
So every driveway is
Yes.
technically an intersection because that's where vehicles paths can cross. Those are called uncontrolled.
Interesting.
Yep.
This is what it's like to have an expert on the topic. Answer.
Exactly. Yes.
Another true or false question. Pedestrians always have the right of way at crosswalks, and it is a traffic violation to not let them cross once they are within the crosswalk.
That's also correct.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And we have all been there when I have been walking and a car kind of honks at me, and it's like I have the right to pass through this intersection without you mauling me over.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Somebody actually sped up because they saw me in the crosswalk. No.
True or false? When it is raining, put your hazard lights on.
Ooh. Well, I'll let Shelley answer first, and I want to tell you something about that.
I'm gonna say no, but
Yeah.
he's better.
Yeah, the law has recently changed where that is allowed.
Ah,
So it is legal to do that. I and many of my colleagues would strongly discourage you from doing that.
yeah,
And the reason we want you to discourage you is at that point in time when your hazards are on, you lose the ability to use your turn signals, your turn indicators, so no one can know. If you're on one side of the vehicle, it looks like you're signaling to come over. So the advice we like to give, if it's raining so bad that you feel like you have to put your hazards on, pull to the side of the road, get off the road, stop driving, and put your hazards on. Then, if not, we recommend not, even though it is legal for you to drive with them on during the rain.
Wow.
that's good to know.
How can you get the most expensive speeding ticket?
Ooh.
Let's pretend I'm trying. Let's pretend I'm going for it all. I really want to blow my money on speeding tickets.
You're doing your level best.
Yeah.
Okay. Shelley, why don't you start, and I'll throw in some things that'll make it more.
You could be intoxicated and going at a very high rate in a school zone.
Ooh, she got a lot of them. She got a lot of them. And then, yeah, if you really want to tack it on, then do some significant property damage. And I know this isn't something to really joke about, but if there's, a fatality involved, now you're really racking up that the expenses, not only with your citation offense, but with all the other things that are going to be happening in your life, open yourself up to civil lawsuits and lawyers. And so the bottom line is, don't speed. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I read that the in the US on average 123 workers die each year at construction sites because of people speeding, not paying attention or speeding through them, I guess.
Yeah, I was actually at a conference with a company that does a lot of contract work with the state of Florida, and their concern is off the chart with the way people drive through the construction zones and all the reasons that slowing down is the appropriate thing, because people who drive are very me-centric, got to get where I'm going centric. I have to slow down. But I mean, the people are right next to you, putting their lives on the line to do something simple as road repair to make your life easier. So something that, needs to be heeded for sure.
When did wearing a seatbelt become required by law in the state of Florida?
Ooh. In Florida. As a primary or a secondary offense?
Now we are getting into nitty-gritties, but when was the law? Yeah, when was the law passed?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm going to be taking a guess.
I'm saying 1977.
I'm gonna say 86 to 91, somewhere in there.
Great range. It is 86.
86.
Wow.
Which seems fairly recent.
Yeah.
It's still very recent.
Well, that's why I bring it up. I could be wrong on this, and anyone listening to the podcast, feel free to go in and look this up and then give me a call and correct me. But I think that at that time that it was a secondary offense when it first came into law. So you could not be pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt, much like the texting. And you don't text like this. Anyone text like this anymore?
You can't.
Yeah.
Well, here, as an old, this is how I text. So like texting wasn't a primary offense originally either. We kind of ease into these things in Florida instead of just like, hey, this is the new law. We kind of ease into it.
This is the last question. Is it legal to smoke while driving? And is there a situation where it's not, if it is?
I would again say it may be not in the school zone.
So yeah, I don't think you can be pulled over for smoking, but if you are underage and smoking, it is definitely not legal to drive while you're smoking.
Apparently you can smoke tobacco products while driving, but if there's a child, I think it was under the age of 13 or something I read, you're not allowed. And it's not a huge fine that you can get, and it's like you said, it's a secondary offense, but it's not technically legal.
Yeah, we'll roll that into increasing your speeding fine. We'll put a kid in the back seat and we'll put a stick in your hand
as I'm speeding through the school zone.
Can I ask one for you? For you guys? Okay.
Yeah.
This.
So bicyclists have the same rights and responsibility as drivers of motor vehicles. Is that
yes,
true?
That's correct. Yeah,
that's true. I read that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you think about that and then think about how bicyclists use the road, sometimes bicyclists are not the best drivers because at that moment they are a vehicle and they are drivers on the roadway. And in order to increase bicycle safety, you need to act like a motor vehicle, signaling, being in the correct lane, fully stopping at stop signs, so on and so forth. That's not a popular, they're definitely vulnerable roadway users and all drivers need to be on the lookout for them and take special precautions. But there's, that goes both ways. When you're out there driving your bike, act like a car and you'll be much, much you'll have less risk. Great job, guys. You're 1 for 1.
That's the end of our little trivia lightning round. And the reason we chose that is because our guest Derek is a driver. You're technically a driver's ed teacher. That's your 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm not in the classroom as much anymore. I'm the driver education coordinator at Florida Virtual School, but I've been in and around teaching driver ed for almost 25 years. So yeah, that's my livelihood. 9 to 5, and you know, when you log on late for podcasts, sometimes 9 to 6, 9 to 7.
So you have a lot of transportation in your life, because we're here to talk about actually TrypScore, which is an app.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about TrypScore, what it is.
Sure. So in recent times, you know, past 5, 6, 7 years, telematics, the use of your electronic device as a measuring of force and distance and angles and things like that, has become very popular. And you're probably familiar with things you can plug in your car, insurance, giving you discounts. And TrypScore is a telematics app that measures your driving ability, but it doesn't do it with the insurance kind of discount or anything in mind. It basically rewards you financially for going out and driving with a good telematics score. So what are good telematics scores? Good braking, smooth acceleration, not taking turns too hard. It can tell if you picked up your phone and used it while driving, which is obviously a big no-no, and that will reduce your trip score. So it's basically an app that monitors your driving and then rewards you for safe driving.
And how does it encourage safer driving habits? Like you said that it rewards you. What are the rewards? That's
a great question. So first of all, the app itself is gamified. So there are badges you can earn, there are levels you can achieve. You can make a circle of friends or a circle of group or a circle at work, and you can compete against each other who's got the best overall trip score, which in and of itself is fun. And before I fully answer your question with the rewards, I want to just tell you a quick question about that. Tell you a quick story, I should say, about that. When I first found out about the app, you can imagine living in the same house with me, talking about driving all the time, driving. So I thought, you know, I'm going to share this with my family, and that's going to be that, because they have, you know, can you imagine growing up in a household with a driver education instructor? I mean, come on, let's get real. It's got to be maddening for you guys. But I shared it, they used it, and then all of a sudden, our children, my wife and I, we started having driving safety conversations. Like, oh, your trip score and this, that, and the other, and really started thinking about this. And I was like, wow, I can't believe how seriously you guys are taking this. And I was thrilled. Now, by doing these games, not playing games, but the levels and going through the different things and driving through different zones, you accumulate entries into contests. And then each week they draw from these different contest buckets and award you with gift cards. The biggest gift card they give out is $500. Again, I don't work for TrypScore. I didn't develop TrypScore, but I am a $500 TrypScore winner, so that's good. And yes, I can reveal that now. And my wife wants to know what I got her with the $500 card. And what they launched last year, which was pretty cool, is one random TrypScore driver gets what they call drive for free for a year. So I think a 17-year-old in Canada, maybe Alberta, Canada, basically got his car insurance, his maintenance, and his fuel paid for a year as one of the contests.
That's amazing. So TrypScore is available in US and Canada, or is it available worldwide?
It is worldwide. Yeah. So there's one of the gamification features on there. There's 3 different categories. One, when you use TrypScore, spelled TRYP, you take trips, TRYPs, and you are a tripster, and your immediate group that you invite people into, you compete. So there's one category. and then a national category you're ranked, and then a global category you're ranked. So anyone, anywhere can use it. That's correct.
And what part did you guys play in creating this app?
Because we discovered it early on, we were able to conduct some research with it. For example, I'm a college professor and I have all my students optionally use it if they wish, to basically beta test it and provide feedback on, you know, what do you like about it, what's working, what's not working.
Wow.
So that's one example of how we got involved.
Yeah, plus, I mean, it's, from our perspective, it's always a good idea to open up the door to talking about traffic safety, because it's, you know, it's just something no one ever really talks about. And another thing that we have going on is at Florida Virtual School, I basically wrote a research study to study the impact of driver education on Florida teens. So if you were to go pick 10 random driver education effectiveness studies and read through them, they really only measure as outcomes the numbers of citations, the number of crashes, or self-reporting. So if you take self-reporting, that's very unreliable, because if I asked all four of us, we all think we're better drivers than we are.
Yeah.
Citations really depend on a lot of other factors. So if you live in some counties or some areas, they're more heavily traffic enforced than other areas, you're more likely to get a ticket. And even though we don't say accidents, we call them crashes or collisions, they have causes. Sometimes you can be involved in a car crash that's not your fault at all. If you're sitting properly at a red light and get rear-ended, you're mentioned in a car crash. So crash report data is a little bit skewed sometimes. But what we're trying to do is measure the telematics of it. How are our students actually driving in the real world? How gentle are they on the brake and the accelerator? Are we keeping them off their phones? And we're in the middle of that study right now. And we're doing that to figure out how effective our instruction is. And if it needs to improve, we'll have to figure out a way to improve it to impact the driving scores of our students at FLVS. And then hopefully that research goes out and other entities can replicate it, face-to-face driver education programs, different states. So it's really exciting to be part of something like that, for sure.
That is exciting. And so where can we go to download this app or get this app?
Yeah, any app store. So it's on Android devices, Apple devices. It's in the Apple Store. And one thing I thought that I should mention that's good in this conversation, especially because we want to reduce the number of trips that you take. Since it's measuring you all the time, if you get on a bus or you're a passenger in another car, TrypScore doesn't know that you were the passenger. So it asks you at the end, like, hey, you just took a trip. Were you the driver or the passenger? And if you click passenger, it gives you an eco score. That's the contest you're entered in. So the more times you skip driving yourself, you carpool. Actually, it's fun time. One time I was asked if I was a trip on taxiing out in a plane on a runway. I was like, International. It's like, were you the driver? I was like, no. I was definitely the passenger. But you can increase, so you can participate in this even if you're a non-driver. And it does encourage you, and some of their behind the scenes extra things in there do talk about what we call eco driving, right? Being a little bit more eco-friendly. And if you are concerned about that, you'll notice how many trips you take. And you're like, I should have combined that into one trip, but I went here and back, here and back, here and back. And that's not fuel efficient. So you'll kind of, if you're paying attention, you'll call yourself out. It really does make you think about your driving habits and behaviors.
Can it differentiate between the kind of vehicle you're in or no?
What a great question. Yes.
Okay.
So Shelley and I drive two different kinds of vehicles. And why don't you talk a little bit about it? What does it ask you, or what can you do on the app?
Well, it'll ask you is that you can have your primary vehicle, but if it detects something a little bit off, like you're hard braking more than you usually do, it may come back and ask you, are you driving your primary vehicle or were you in some other car? Because we've noticed, since we do drive 2 different vehicles, that if he drives mine, he probably gets a lower trip score because he's kind of figured out the parameters of the game in his vehicle, and vice versa. So it definitely knows what type of vehicle you're in.
Yep. And you can select, and the range is wide. We have an RV, and it's like a cargo van. You can pick that on there. So you can pick back and forth. And I think, don't quote me on this, it's not something maybe I shouldn't say because we're on a podcast and it's being recorded, but I think that they're iterating out differences in vehicles and want to downscale that to other things other than just like car type vehicles, truck type vehicles.
Because it did pick up the time we were on a boat. And
That's right, boat.
It picked up.
Yep. That's right. Was that the jet ski?
No, that was in North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're out in the middle of the lake.
That's great. I'm going to be taking a lot of trips on trains very recently, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that does.
That's cool. Yeah, just make sure that you mark that you're the passenger.
Yeah.
Not the conductor.
Or pick one where you're.
I mean, I would love to be a train conductor.
Nice. You have a bunch of train conductor hats off camera there, ready to just pop on and go.
Yeah, there's a whole wall of them here. Yes. Do you have any other favorite apps that are related to TrypScore that you use, or is the TrypScore, like, have you switched to using TrypScore only?
That is a great question. Despite probably benefiting of it, I've never actually engaged in one of the car insurance, money saving apps.
Yeah, right.
So I haven't downloaded that. You don't use one, do you?
Well, of course, once I downloaded TrypScore, the Googler kind of knew what I was up to and started suggesting other ones. Actually can't think of the name of it though. I guess to answer your question, since I kind of learned TrypScore first, I've just been using that one.
Yeah, or you can download the Florida driver license handbook like I do and read a little bit every night just before you go to bed. It'll refresh your memory, get you ready for quiz,
Actually,
pop-up quizzes, and
it'll put you right to sleep.
And it'll put you right to sleep. That's right. 3 benefits right off the bat, right there.
Well, I think that's our last question. Do you have any more questions, Sumitra?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much for doing the podcast today.
It's TrypScore, TrypScore, correct?
That's correct. All one word.
Yeah, so to our listeners, check it out. You can find it in the Google App Store or the Apple
App Store.
I forget what.
I know you're an Android user, so yes.
Yeah.
One question is, what mobile devices does it support? Like, does it support an iPad or is it cell phone only?
Yeah, that's another good question. I can use it on my iPad, and it does support older devices. One of the big things that they were, and one of the reasons that the beta testing occurred, is all the calculations take place off of the phone, that your data is transmitted, when you're on Wi-Fi, so that you're not burning up your data, and it's done in chunks. All the data is anonymous, so the data is stored and then encrypted, where it goes across where they don't have any personal information, which is also other than your location, which you provide, but they don't know that it's you. And the reason I bring that up is that really saves on battery life, and it saves on your data charges. And they really wanted to hone that in before they, got it going, so that people weren't like, yeah, this is a great app, but my phone only lasted an hour and then it was out of battery, or whatever the case may be. So that sometimes makes it feel a little bit slow because everything doesn't update in real time. But it will eventually update. And again, that's designed to protect us, the user, from intrusion into our privacy, and then make those data packets small. and use less energy or battery life on our phones.
That's great. I have one more question. I thought I was done with my questions, but I'm a very curious person. Can you tell us what inspired you to kind of, do all the beta testing, get involved in the app? What's the story behind all of that? Because I know we all have some sort of an impetus to get into, where we just spend so much of our lives doing something like this. So what was your inspiration for that?
Well, besides Derek being a driver education instructor, in November of 2021, my brother was cycling and was killed by a reckless speeding driver. And of course, we were devastated. But as through dealing with the grief, we thought, what is something positive that could come out of this?
Yeah.
And what could be the most universal thing? We got to thinking, if we could get drivers to be safer, we could prevent some of these fatalities. And we start with the younger drivers, hoping they'll catch on to it and then share it with their families, just to bring safety to drivers in general. So that's what really drew me to it. I wanted to try to find something good out of such a tragedy.
I'm really sorry about that, but I'm really glad that you're doing something so positive with that. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, thank you for coming on our show. This has been a great opportunity for all of us to learn more about this app. I'm definitely going to check it out. I don't drive a car. I don't have my own car, but I will sometimes drive a rental. But it's nice to know that I can still get a score if I'm taking public transport. So I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, I hope you guys had some fun today. These kind of things are always fun to do, and it's always nice to meet new people. And you probably tell I talk about driver education all the time. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to share it with my friends as well. And as someone, so I share my car with my partner because I do not like driving. I detest it as like an activity that I have to do. And so I'm usually passenger a lot. So I'm very excited for that eco score.
Well, just have your partner use the app, and then maybe you can benefit from some shared gift card spending.
Oh, sure.
Great idea.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Yep.
Thank you so much for chatting with us tonight. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.